Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning and salam satu Malaysia. Honorable ministers, excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to address such a distinguished audience of ASEAN business minds gathered for the first ASEAN Capital Market CEO Summit. Malaysia's marketplace has much to offer the world. We have one of the world's youngest, increasingly educated and skilled populations. We have highly connected and dynamic economies that value the rule of law, a rich history of trade and commerce, and of course, a growing, a burgeoning consumer class. In the next 10 years, we are projected to have 125 million households with incomes of over $7,500 US. This shift reflects the changes shaping the global economic order in what is often called the Asian century. Of course, it's too early to tell whether Asia's promise of modernization, development, and innovation will be fully realized in the next 85 years. But we should have every confidence that we as ASEAN can fulfill our own potential. With more than 620 million people, ASEAN is home to 10% of the world's population, making it the third largest single market in the world, surpassing the US and EU and behind only China and India. If it were a single country, it would be the seventh largest economy in the world with a combined GDP expected to reach $4 trillion by 2020. It is, without doubt, the world's greatest emerging economy. Ladies and gentlemen, our young people, some of whom are in the next room, I hope they're watching me. Our millennials are one of the world's largest groups of new entrants in the workforce, thanks to the Asian baby boom of the 80s and 90s. They are smart. At least they look smart. They thrive on disruptive technology, and they're more meaningfully connected to the world than any generation before them. The ingredients are there for our region to not only succeed, but to thrive. And so is the will, the political will, the resolve. Malaysia is committed to realizing the vision of the ASEAN community, a collective act of closer economic, political, and cultural integration that we are launching this year. We believe that an economically integrated ASEAN benefits all of the member states, and that goes without saying. The community is designed to open new opportunities, enormous opportunities for people and businesses by creating an ASEAN with freer movement of goods, services, skill, labor, and capital. There is every reason to hope that further integration will lead to the world witnessing the emergence of what I would call a new economic power, Southeast Asia. I say new because although our economies have been trade and commercial hubs for centuries, we are today creating an economic union, unlike anything since the days of empire. Ladies and gentlemen, I was immensely proud as a 14-year-old to see the hard work of my father, along with the foreign ministers of Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, and Singapore come to fruition with the signing of the ASEAN Declaration that brought our association into being. As a founding member, we have always taken our responsibilities seriously. Today, we are 10 nations connected by common purpose, common ambition, and common vision. And we stand, I believe, on the brink, on the cusp of a tremendous, wonderful opportunity. With the establishment of ASEAN as single market and production base, we will unlock the potential to level the playing field with the world's biggest economies. As it is, our international trade has almost tripled in the last 10 years. Foreign direct investment has been increasing in the region. And perhaps you'll permit my mentioning that we, Malaysia, recorded our highest ever FDI last year. Harmonizing and standardizing trade and customs, processes and procedures will reduce transaction costs, making ASEAN even more attractive as an investment location and enhance export competitiveness. Liberalizing the financial services sector while ensuring responsible investment and sustainability, building free and open investment markets with transparent and clear dispute settlement mechanisms will further increase investor confidence, stability, and growth. There will be challenges in deepening institutional ties and infrastructure links. But the 7 stock exchanges of ASEAN, several of whose CEOs are here today, and you are welcome, provide just one example of what we can do together. 3 years ago, the ASEAN Exchanges collaboration was created to attract new global investors and bring liquidity to a more integrated ASEAN market and related asset classes. This collaboration has helped pave the way for the regional expansion of highly professional ASEAN-grown equity market participants and led to the development of new ASEAN equity indices that will provide a global benchmark for ASEAN market performance. Perhaps most importantly, it provides both regional and international equity investors with the opportunity to access a more integrated and liquid market, facilitate capital raising for companies, and allow investors to benchmark performance globally. It is also this collaboration that has given rise to an increased competitive spirit amongst the exchanges, which is healthy and will benefit us all. It is true that our 10 nations are at different stages of economic and social development, but the different specializations and competitive advantage among our countries, from lower labor costs in some to greater manufacturing capabilities in others, will drive competition, competitiveness, and prosperity, which should be complementary within a region that increasingly functions as a single market. At the same time, we must all work to raise awareness throughout ASEAN of the significant opportunities that are within our grasp and of a shared responsibility to achieve these goals together on a sustainable basis. Everyone, from an equity analyst in Singapore, a rice farmer in Thailand, a halal food business owner here in Kuala Lumpur, SMEs, business leaders throughout the region should be aware of the shared growth and prosperity that the ASEAN community aims to enable and have access to this potential. Ladies and gentlemen, in the coming months, we will continue to work closely We have a lot to do with other member states to ensure ASEAN delivers on key initiatives. I want to see that the ASEAN Secretariat be strengthened to ensure ASEAN states work together to craft and implement this year's actions and our post-2015 agenda. As we plan our next course of action, our priority must be to ensure that integration leads to a more equitable wealth creation and distribution. We must deepen financial integration and inclusion, and we must ensure that all sectors of economies are fully engaged in the ASEAN community. As chair of this association in this pivotal year, I can assure you that Malaysia will play a key role in building a stronger, more prosperous, more open Southeast Asia. An ASEAN that truly is about our people, about our community, and about our vision. Thank you.
Please. Mr. Prime Minister, that was a very upbeat speech. In fact, I thought that should have been made by the Secretary General of ASEAN. As I have been accused for the 5 years that I was there, that I was a salesman of ASEAN, selling the balloon, selling the vision. But here we are. Back in 1967, your father was, you referred to, one of the founding members of ASEAN, and his vision then, and here we are, almost 50 years old. The chairmanship has come to Malaysia again, and you have just assumed that position after 3 years of, let me put it this way, chairman of the new members. A lot is expected of Malaysia. A lot is expected of you, Mr. Prime Minister. And yet the past year, you have gone through a tremendous trauma. As leader, as Prime Minister, the airlines incident, all other challenges that you had to face. You feel the pressure to assume this leadership of ASEAN, or you feel inspired in spite of everything that has gone by in the past year?
I'm still sleeping well at night.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. No, actually, it's a mix of the two. Pressure in a sense of the high expectation. And to me, I think it's good that one should feel a little bit of pressure. Because when one feels a bit of pressure, then one, will hopefully strive to meet the challenges. And I know the expectations are high. I come with a sense of historical legacy, if you like.
Yes.
And I'd like to play my part, together with the support of my ASEAN colleagues. The ASEAN way of doing things. We need to be together. And if we really have this ASEAN-ness in our hearts, in our minds and our hearts, I think a lot can be done this year. I think we can deliver on the fundamentals or the fundamental goals that we want to achieve. But we also want to take the entire ASEAN community with us. That's why under our chairmanship, we've chosen a people-centered ASEAN, because I want ASEAN, the feeling of ASEAN, to cascade down to the man in the street, to feel ASEAN. Because realistically, we have the other pressure. You know, the feeling of more parochial, inward-looking, to safeguard national interests. Above all, that is working in a diametrically opposite direction, which must safeguard that from being too intrusive.
Yes.
So, in short, we have a lot of work to be done, but I'm excited about it.
We have given out all these optimistic pictures to the world, to all of our people, 600 million, 700 million soon, that this is one integrated market, and it's growing middle class, growing in purchasing power, and yet among us and between us, compared to the EU, compared to North America, only 24, 25% of trade among us and between us. And that is a challenge for us. And you have referred to this idea that we may have some narrow interest to protect. How do we get all the member states to see further into the future? Larger picture, expanding this intra-ASEAN trade. A community, to me, Mr. Prime Minister, is going to be very difficult if it is only 25% we trade among ourselves. Yes. EU is much higher than that. Yes. NAFTA is much higher than that. How are we going to contain this non-tariff barriers that seem to be growing up among us? I think the private sector is very concerned about that.
Absolutely. I think you've made a very relevant point. Whilst we have reduced the tariff rates and the compliance is about 82%, and we've got about 45 deliverables this year. But at the same time, ironically, we're seeing a rise in non-tariff barriers, which is of concern to us. I think we are all guilty of that, and I think we need to do something about it. Address this emerging threat of non-tariff barriers, even the basic, more practical things like getting professionals, to move from one ASEAN country to another to work, to get work permit, to get permission from the regulatory authorities. I mean that should be, as easy as getting an international passport. But there are difficulties, being faced. And there's even call for reduction in ownership, equity ownership in certain key sectors. So these are some of the things that I alluded to. And I think it is incumbent upon us, and when I say us, I also mean the business community. I think this is the point that you're trying to make. The leadership must not only rest with the government, but also with the business community. They must also show leadership.
Yes, I think the leaders have done their job. I think the diplomats have done their job, creating this structure called ASEAN. Now we would like the private sector and everybody to come in. But maybe the job of the leaders have not finished yet. And that job is to look into each and every sector, where and why they are reluctant. They don't think they can be competitive. They think they need help. Maybe governments will have to zero into those sectors and say, we will help, we will give you support, and we will somehow bring you up to speed. Will governments be able to do that? Will government be willing to do that?
Actually, this is one of those things that will be part of our agenda when we meet in April. And as a precursor to that, we are organizing a workshop. And we are inviting the top 100 big companies, mid-sized companies, and even SMEs, the CEOs, to have a workshop for a few days. And let's hear from them. What their hopes are, what are their expectations, and what are their concerns, and what are challenges. And I think we need to hear from them, so that come April, we'll have a very complete picture then. And we're not hearing just from the bureaucrats. We're going to hear from them, and they will have the benefit of a 3-day discussion, a very, very comprehensive workshop. And I'd like to hear and listen to them. And this is exactly how we're going to address it.
Yeah. We are here with the money people, with the business people, Mr. Prime Minister. We want to create one integrated market with tremendous purchasing power and with the power to bargain with the rest of the world. The idea of the ASEAN community came into being because China was growing very quick, India was opening very fast. We felt the pressure. Now, the gap between us from the new members and the older members are tremendous. How do you think the money people, the banks and the financial sectors and the business can come in and help address that wide gap and widening gap? The least probably less than $2 a day still, but the highest is $54,000 a year. How can we, or you as chair, at least begin to introduce some of the new ideas into this major challenge within us?
We have to make sure that the development is a more equitable development. I agree with you. I think this notion of the development gap must be addressed. And one of the ways in which we can address is to look at the infrastructure. I think infrastructure will play a very key part. We need to generate more capital for that, invest in infrastructure, and that can come from the region. That can also come from outside the region. I think we've got some signal from different sources that they are interested in funding infrastructure development. And I'd like to see that going to some of the countries that are underfunded in terms of infrastructure. And the other thing, education, I think, is key.
Human resource development.
Human resource development. And I think we need to look into how we can support human capital development. That's, to me, is key to the future of ASEAN.
Your father founded ASEAN. Dr. Mahathir delivered the ASEAN +3 as a result of the crisis in 1997. Tun Abdullah delivered EAS. What would be the delivery of Dato' Najib?
Well, that's a gimme, as they say, because this is the year. This is a historic year for us, and I want to not only stand up at the end of the year on behalf of ASEAN, to declare ourselves as an economic community, but when that announcement is made, I'd like that to be a very substantive announcement. So the next coming months, we have our work cut out for us. We have to look at the deliverables, and we have to look at how that concept of a community, can be embraced so that people will think ASEAN and will act ASEAN.
The younger generation of ASEAN, back in 1967 when ASEAN was founded, you were 14, 15 years old. A fan of Rolling Stones. Now there is that millennials again sitting in another room hoping to be part of this journey.
Yes.
What would be the message for you, Mr. Chairman of ASEAN? How can they come in and take part in this grand enterprise, the vision that you have just shared with us? How can they make a contribution? Because without them, I have been saying that my generation is over. ASEAN is for the younger generation.
Yes.
What would be the message from the chair to these very eager, very well prepared generation of millennials?
I'm going to meet them shortly. I'm sure they're going to pounce on me pepper me with a lot of questions. But I think the key takeaway is that this economic community would unleash the full potential of ASEAN. And once that is realized, it's going to be to their benefit. So we have to then set the stage for that to happen. They must see in terms of ASEAN as a big market. We have to create regional champions, for example. We have to harmonize regulations. We have to make it easier to do business in ASEAN. We have to look at harmonization of rules, regulations, all these things, so that the whole notion of feeling about ASEAN will translate into real tangible benefits for this new generation.
I think you also referred to something that is non-economic. There are problems in the region. ASEAN is considered as collaborative competition. We work together, we compete with each other. But there are other issues pressuring upon the region, being the center of gravity, being the fulcrum of many movements that's going on around us. The major powers, territorial problems. ASEAN has been expected to play that role.
Yes.
Under your leadership, will ASEAN rise to that role, to that expectation?
We all realize that we need a peaceful environment. We need a stable environment. Because if that is being undermined for whatever reason, and I think at two levels. One is the power play between the big nations, and they must enter into a cooperative kind of relationship. Of course, they're vying for influence, but at the same time, essentially, they should be seen as a cooperative relationship. I've said this many times. ASEAN should not be asked to choose between United States and China. We need both powers to play a productive and cooperative role in this part of the world to ensure peace and stability. We should adhere to the principles as enunciated by ASEAN, which is the DOC and later on the COC, the Code of Conduct. And we should enter into peaceful negotiations. We should not raise tension and so forth and so forth. That's at that level. And ASEAN, as a group of nations, we will play our part. I know it's a cliche to say the centrality of ASEAN, but in this regional architecture, in the EAS, we will continue to stress on the centrality of ASEAN. Then, of course, you have the other more insidious threat, the extremism, the radicalism, all those things have to be addressed as well, because we have to ensure that that threat is dealt with, and the current issues. And I see the Bangsamoro, that part of the world has to be, to be resolved, that issue. Mm-hmm. We have southern Thailand. Yes. We want to help out there. We have some internal problems that spill over from Myanmar to our part of the world. I think those are the things that, the three areas of concern in terms of the security, intra-ASEAN security, which we need to deal with. And thirdly, if I can mention, there are existing unresolved border issues, maritime issues, which we have to deal with in a very responsible, matured way. Because if that is not managed properly, then the perception that ASEAN is having real problems within ASEAN will then take root. So we have to manage all these challenges.
Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Chairman, that's a very, very soothing and comforting message. Because without stability, without confidence, without semblance of peace among us, it's going to be extremely difficult for the private sector to come in. $140 billion coming in as foreign direct investment. It's going to be reluctant to come in. 150, 160 into the future, as you said. So it's a very comforting message that we will create this landscape as a landscape of stability and security. making it easier for them to come in and participate. I am sure your message has been well received. Thank you very, very much, and good luck for the chairmanship.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.